Ethan Blake, the 38-year-old CFO of Titan Mart, had everything people envied: power, respect, and a penthouse overlooking the city skyline. Yet every morning, when he stirred his black coffee alone and watched the city wake below him, a familiar emptiness gnawed at his chest. Years of corporate success had left him wealthy but hollow. He'd once been engaged, years ago, but work had consumed him, and she had grown tired of competing with his ambition. Since then, Ethan had kept his heart locked behind spreadsheets and quarterly reports. That Saturday afternoon, he had stopped by one of Titanmart's branches to inspect the customer experience himself. Dressed in his usual sharp suit, he blended in only as another impatient man in line, checking emails between glances at the clock. But then he heard it, a voice so soft, it trembled. I'm sorry, I'll have to return this," the woman said quietly to the cashier. Ethan looked up. A young mother stood there, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. Her coat was too thin for the cold, her shoes worn. In her hands was a small container of baby formula. The cashier hesitated before nodding sympathetically and scanning the return. The woman fumbled with a torn wallet, her fingers trembling. Ethan noticed she carried a baby in her arms, the little one giggling, clutching a small toy bear whose fur had faded from use. Something shifted inside Ethan, a sharp pang he hadn't expected. He watched as she handed the formula back, murmuring, "Maybe next week." The words hit him harder than he wanted to admit. He imagined her going home, trying to stretch the last bit of milk left in a bottle while pretending everything was fine. Before he realized it, he stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said gently, his deep voice cutting through the quiet tension. She turned, startled, eyes wide and tired. "Let me take care of that," he said, nodding toward the formula. Her face immediately flushed. "No, please, I can't accept that. You don't even know me." "I don't need to," Ethan replied softly. "Just let me help." The cashier glanced between them, unsure, until Ethan handed over his sleek black card. The transaction was quick, silent. When the receipt printed, the woman looked at him, tears welling. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" Ethan paused, his throat tight. "Because once, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. It's time I return the favor." She blinked back tears, whispered, "Thank you," and hurried out with her baby in her arms. As the door closed behind her, Ethan felt something stir in him, something warm, unfamiliar, and deeply human. He didn't know it yet, but this chance encounter had just changed the direction of his lonely life forever. Ethan stood frozen, every breath catching in his throat as the truth hit him with the force of a tidal wave. The children, the twins, were his. He didn't need Lila to confirm it, their matching blue eyes said everything. Guilt surged through him, memories flooding back of the night he'd walked away and the countless times he could have turned back but didn't. Now, face to face with what he'd lost, he realized just how much life had taken its quiet revenge. Lila's expression hardened when she saw him approaching. "Ethan," she said cautiously, her voice a mixture of shock and pain. He stopped a few feet away, unable to look at her directly. "Lila, I swear, I didn't know," he whispered. "If I had," she cut him off, trembling. "You did know. You just didn't care." Her words sliced through the years of silence between them. The twins, curious and unaware, peeked at him from behind her legs. "Mommy, who's that man?" the little girl asked softly. Lila knelt beside her, struggling for words. Before she could speak, Ethan crouched down, his voice breaking. "Hi there," he said gently, forcing a smile. "I'm an old friend of your mom's." The twins giggled shyly, and for a brief moment, something warm flickered inside him, something he hadn't felt in years. Over the following days, their paths kept crossing. The town was small, and fate seemed determined to keep them entangled. Ethan started visiting the local school under the pretense of reviewing the charity project, but really, he just wanted to be near them, to learn about Noah's love for drawing and Ella's obsession with seashells. Every stolen moment deepened his regret. Lila tried to stay distant, yet she couldn't ignore the way Ethan looked at the twins, with wonder, sorrow, and a desperate longing to make up for lost time. One evening, as the sun dipped below the waves, she found him sitting on the pier, staring at the horizon. "Why now, Ethan?" she asked quietly. "Why show up when we finally learn to live without you?" He turned to her, his eyes wet. Because I finally learned what loneliness really means. I thought success would fill the emptiness, but it only reminded me of the life I threw away. Silence hung between them, broken only by the sound of laughter, the twins running toward them, their tiny hands outstretched. Lila hesitated, but when they reached Ethan and tugged at his sleeve, she didn't stop them. For the first time, she saw not the man who left, but the father who was finally ready to stay. Over the next few weeks, Ethan became a quiet but constant presence in Lila's world. He volunteered at the twins' school events, sponsored a new playground, and even joined the weekend community cleanup, things the old Ethan Hale would have considered beneath him. The town began to warm to him, seeing not the distant CEO from magazine covers, but a man who was trying to rebuild something he'd once shattered. Lila, however, struggled to believe his transformation. She had seen his charm before, the sweet words, the promises, the intensity, and she refused to let history repeat itself. But watching Ethan with the twins made her heart ache in ways she hadn't expected. Noah climbed into his lap during story time, and Ella insisted on showing him every seashell she found on the beach. Each moment chipped away at the walls Lila had built around herself. One afternoon, as rain poured over the town, Lila found Ethan in the school's old library, fixing a broken shelf. His sleeves were rolled up, his hair damp, and for the first time in years, she saw him without the armor of his wealth. "You don't have to keep doing this," she said softly. "You've already done enough." He looked up, meeting her gaze. "No," he said simply, his voice steady. "I've barely begun." She wanted to believe him, but fear held her back. "Ethan, the twins, they've started to care about you. Don't make them promises you can't keep." "I won't," he said, his tone firm. "I walked away once, Lila. I won't walk away again." Something in his eyes, raw, unguarded, made her pause. For a brief second, she saw not the man who'd broken her heart, but the one she'd once loved so fiercely. Still, trust didn't come easily. It had taken her years to build a stable life. One wrong move could break it all again. Days turned into weeks. Ethan became part of their routine, helping with school projects, cooking breakfast on weekends, laughing as the twins dragged him into their messy, innocent world. Slowly, the distance between him and Lila began to fade. One night, after putting the twins to bed, Lila found herself sitting beside Ethan on the porch. The moonlight shimmered on the ocean, and silence lingered between them. Finally, she whispered, "I don't know if I can forgive you." Ethan reached for her hand, his voice barely audible. "Then let me spend the rest of my life trying to earn it." The first signs of change were subtle. Lily began practicing without being reminded, filling the house with melodies at all hours. Max became a constant companion, his laughter echoing in the halls like he belonged there. But what surprised Ethan the most was how natural it felt to have Clara in his home. She didn't intrude or demand space. She simply became part of their rhythm, like a missing note that completed a song. Still, Ethan wrestled with his feelings. As a CEO, he was trained to analyze risks and avoid mistakes. Falling for Lily's piano teacher, a woman who had her own struggles, her own child to raise, wasn't in his carefully laid plans. And yet, every time Clara smiled, every time her hand brushed his when she adjusted Lily's sheet music, he felt the walls around his heart weaken. The turning point came one Saturday morning when Lily insisted on showing Ethan and Clara her first concert. She had decorated the living room with drawings for posters, placed dining chairs in neat rows, and demanded they sit as her audience. Max clapped enthusiastically as Lily played her piece, her confidence shining through every note. When the final chord rang, Lily jumped up, bowing dramatically. "Daddy, did you like it?" she asked, running into his arms. "I loved it," Ethan said, his voice thick with pride. But when Lily turned to Clara and whispered, "You're like family now," something inside him shifted. After the children went off to play, Ethan found Clara in the kitchen rinsing cups. He leaned against the counter, studying her. "You've done more for Lily in a few months than I could have imagined. You've given her back her spark. And, truthfully, you've given me something too." Clara stilled, her cheeks flushing. "Ethan, I don't want this to end," he said softly. "Not the lessons, not the laughter, not us." For a long moment, silence hung between them, broken only by the children's giggles down the hall. Then Clara met his gaze, her eyes glistening with both fear and hope. "Neither do I." He reached for her hand, and she didn't pull away. In that simple gesture, Ethan realized their lives, once broken in different ways, were weaving together into something stronger. Not perfect, not polished, but real. A family born not of plans or precision, but of unexpected mistakes that led them exactly where they were meant to be.